So after using all that copper in our last two builds, I come to find out, oh man, I've got a whole lot of copper and it could have just been cooking it down. But that's okay because we had, or at least we needed, a lot of the oxidized copper. I didn't want to wait for all of that to oxidize. So good that we bought it, but I'm really glad to know that we have more copper in the reserve. So if you remember from all of our episodes, man, we've been doing so much building out here. We've got a bunch of buildings there. We did this whole thing, except for maybe timber time. But as you can see, we've been doing a lot of building. And with all this building, I've realized, where do people hang out? Like, we've got some little benches here that people are going to sit in, but we don't have a great park area. Well, what does that mean? It means that I went away and started thinking about what a park area might look like. So I put some ideas of some benches, like, do we have some kind of a walkway into here? And do we have a cool tree? Like, we can't just do one of these, what are these, weeping willow trees? We need to have something a little more exciting. So I thought today would be a little bit of a walk in the park day, building that park area out. And I think this works perfect. I thought about a couple different buildings here, but really, if we look around our village, there is just building after building after building. And really, these village people, I want them to say, hey, we need a place that is a nice resting spot. We can come in, enjoy a park. We got the little gazebo there. Oh, and we've got some other projects marked out. I should probably show you this real quick. One of the things that I realized is my storage is still in a hole in the ground over there. I need to get a better way of doing it. So I've started building a little bit of what we're going to do underneath the trading hall here. Forgot what it was called there for a minute, but I want to have a place that we can have a real storage room so that we can finish out this area. So what I've started doing is marking out some pathways. I've even got a concept for a building over there. Not quite sure what that's going to be just yet, but I wanted to put something in so that as I was looking at those sight lines, like I always mentioned, that there's something up on the hill that kind of dead ends this pathway. These kind of pathways would come up into some kind of a door entrance way. And so as we're doing that, I think today is going to be our park day, and I want to flatten this a little. I want this to make sure it feels like it's sitting up on the hill. So I think we're going to go to probably this level. At least that's where I've kind of started putting in the wall. So we got a little demolition to do. We've got a little beautification to do. So let's jump in. Okay, now I'm going to go out on a limb here and we're going to try and design this with you watching. I don't really do this because I really like to just kind of mess with the trees and see how they work. That's why I kind of laid out like this, I don't know, shape that was made out of grass with dirt blocks. But that's because a lot of times as I'm going through here, I'm just trying to think of like, how is this going to work? And let's get out some stuff here. But really, a lot of times I just play with the different shapes, see what we've got going on here. So something like this, and let's get out our shovel too. Because I'm going to come through and just start thinking like, let's replace at least all these blocks with the ones that we had kind of already done. So maybe we'll do something like this. I don't know, maybe let's go out one more. This is what I love about just messing with it. And as you can see, we'll kind of do the process, jump down, realize, wow, that looked good, or wow, that looked bad, and change it up. But really, that's kind of just how I build these custom trees, is I'm going to come through and say, all right, let's maybe go one more. And so this is going to differ from what we did before, but I'll take all of this out and start looking at it and saying, all right, does this look like one of these trees could actually grow this way? Oh, I guess I should have shown you. This is basically what we're doing, dark oak and the cherry blossoms. Because I really want this tree to stand out. We have so many trees that are just the green trees. These ones will be little small trees. So now what I'm trying to look at is, does this tree look proportionally like it might grow around and then back up? I don't know. And that's what I'm talking about. So maybe it's an extra one there. Nope, I don't love that. So as you can see, this feels like it's getting a little too heavy. So that's where I'll start coming in with some of these different blocks and saying, all right, we need some kind of a root system here. Maybe there's like some type of branches that get held up here. I don't know. I just like to play with some things there. This one, I don't know. Let's try maybe that and that. Nope, that's not going to work. So we'll take this one out. Maybe we'll need a trap door there. Or maybe we just do something like this. Yeah, that could be working. And then maybe we stick another one there. This one, we'll put one in so it starts kind of rounding that corner. I'm going to need a few more pieces here. Let's see. I guess I can just do that. And this is really the process I go through, is just figuring out what this tree, how it might curve. So what I'll probably do is make some stairs too, because what I want to do is maybe make this part feel a little chunkier, like it was really growing off of there. But as you can see, we start getting a pretty cool shape pretty quick. A lot of times these aren't that difficult to do. It's just thinking about what shape this tree might have done. So where it was looking a little blocky before, and let's break this out before I need to sleep. But as you can see, this thing is starting to really feel like it's got a form. Now don't worry too much about the top, because we're going to have the leaves that come out here and what it looks like. So let me sleep, and then we're going to get those leaves in and show you this really isn't that hard of a process to put in some trees. Now, where's that bed? There it is. Okay, in a new day, we can now come through, see if it looks good from all the different sides. What I really want to make sure is that this is kind of in that perfect spot, because this is going to be a focal spot for this area. I mean, you think of how much you'll be able to see it from across the river, like we're eventually going to put a sawmill over here. That tree will go away. But as you can see, this starts kind of dominating the landscape. So we really want to make sure that this build is in the right spot. But yeah, I'm loving that. Just coming through, seeing this shape. The leaves will come out probably at this height. We might go a little taller. I don't know if I'm loving this part of the trunk. And this is kind of the battle that I go through in my brain. So we'll play around, and I'll do kind of more on the base. Like, yeah, I don't want to overemphasize on that. But that's really what I'm trying to look at is this in the right spot before we get the leaves in? You can move the wood pretty easy, but we really want to make sure, like, as we're coming around, yep, that looks like it's in a good spot. If someone's walking and they come in, obviously that one's pretty good because we centered it. And then the last one is going to be kind of coming around this corner. Yeah, that's the money shot. So as you can see, it's going to be kind of hidden. You'll come around, get the reveal. There'll be a little tree here just for interest, but then that will be the main tree. Yep. All right, guys, we've got it. We are ready to get in some of those leaves. Now, with some of the other trees, as you can see, I like to blend two different types of leaves, so it gives some different highlights. With these pink ones, I'm not sure that I'm going to do that, but we might try putting some pink concrete powder or maybe some pink wool. I don't know. I'm gonna play with that. I've only done one of these one time before. I don't have my leaves. I've only done one of these one time before, and that was in the factory on last season. We had this in the middle of the factory. It looked pretty cool, so this is a little bit of a nod to that. I wanted to bring in a few different pieces from last season because, man, I loved that factory. We did something cool there. And so this is going to be a little bit of a nod to that. And now what I want to do is really just start trying to figure out some kind of organic shape. Now, if you try and plan these kinds of builds, they're not going to work great because this should just be organic, be kind of messy. So don't try and overthink when you're doing custom trees. Just let them kind of form, thinking about making balls in them, different areas that might be popping up. Sometimes you're going to mess up, and that's okay. We'll come back and fix those. Luckily, we have some shears that we can come back and see. So my idea with this one is that I'm gonna kind of make two different clumps, that there's kind of this high side and then that high side. Oh, that might be a little too high. Yeah, we'll check on it. But all I'm really trying to do is get some rough shapes, and that's how I start thinking about these. So as you can see, yeah, that side might be too high. I think this needs to be low. Maybe that's the higher side. And then really what we're going to do is start getting these low sides. So what we're going to need to do is put some kind of scaffolding in here. And this is where you start trying to think about, how is this going to be coming down? Do we want it to be weeping like that? Or maybe is it just little tiny spots that maybe come down? So I should get some shears, but we'll take some of these out. But that's where we're going to really start trying to play with kind of the shape of, how does this come in? How does it hang down? And as you can see, you can get some pretty organic shapes pretty quick. Now I want this to be a little beefier, so I think we'll come out here a little bit more. We'll come out this side. And how are we doing side to side? Yeah, it's getting very, as you can see, it's getting very, the trunk is kind of boring this way. So what we'll probably do is help round that out with some leaves, make it a little more interesting that way. But I think we're getting the right level. That's too high, but we'll bring this one down a little, so it'll kind of have this nice little diagonal cut. So let me get those in. I don't want you to have to sit and watch me mess up and fix a whole bunch. So let me find some shears. We're going to get this fixed, and then we'll see how it's looking. Okay, and after tweaking this, moving it around, let's see how it's looking. Now, I think it's looking pretty good. The height is pretty much ideal of where I want. I don't want it to get too low, but I also don't want it to feel too high. Because when we're looking at this, I really want it to feel like it's still inviting you in. It's a park. I love these little particle effects. And now I am in the phase that I always let it just kind of rest. I'm sure there's some kind of technical term for it, but I like to just live with it. So let it sit here for a bit, because I'm going to notice little things like, if you see there's kind of a big loop around here. So this might be where I try and figure out, where do I start putting blocks? Now I don't want to go too crazy and keep doing that, because then it starts getting too full. So I like to kind of live with it at this stage. Let it see how it's feeling as we start putting some of the other stuff around. Because as you're building custom trees, one thing you're going to notice is that when there's nothing else around it, it really stands out. But once you start having enough different buildings in there, grasses, other things, there may be little things like over here, there's an H in this tree that I'm just noticing. But that is okay, because there's so much other interest in the area that doesn't become as big of a detail. So when you're doing these custom trees, don't get too crazy trying to make it exactly perfect, because you might just need to let it rest a minute, get the other things in. So I'm going to take a break and start coming over here and taking this building down. I said building, but what I actually meant was, let's take this dirt and stone down. It's not going to be too hard, but let me put my stuff away back over here, and then let's get that cleared out. Wow, a beacon helped that go by really fast. If I had done a time lapse, that would have been even quicker. Would have been kind of boring, because those 3 levels weren't too bad. As you can see, I went down a little extra so that this could just be grass. Now I better put some lights in here. I'm probably overdoing it on the torches, but that's okay, because I want to make sure we stay safe. But now I think it's time to let's maybe start detailing out how the pathway flows into here, get these benches built out, and I think that might help us. Like even here, the idea is that this would have some kind of a little border to help the tree, I don't know, be protected from people just running in. This will be that pathway. So let's get that in, and I think that'll probably help us determine if this tree is feeling right. So what's the old saying? They say sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. Well, I think we might be getting at the worst part. But this is really starting to help us understand kind of if we're in the right spot. And I think we are. I think I've gotten this kind of idea of the path coming in, path leading around, the different benches here. And I think this is going to be kind of a nice lead in. Now there's some things I got to trim out, like we got to probably curve that in so it feels a little more organic. This is probably gonna be a little more organic into there too. Those are really kind of the things that are easy to fix as we go. So looking at the different ways into here, seeing if the lights are in the right spot. And I don't know if this border is quite working. It feels like it might be a little too bright. That's okay, that's an easy thing to fix because I think it's standing out with how, I don't know if this is moody, but that's at least a darker tree. These are more of a mid-tone, and that's kind of bright. Maybe that's good, maybe it's bad. I don't know. We're gonna put it in the path and see how it's looking. And then what I wanna do is I actually have this weird idea. Let's go over here, and I wanna see if this idea works. Maybe it's gonna look kind of crazy, but over the season, I always love to try and get one of every kind of ore. And not just the ore, but also the blocks. So I've been putting those in here. And as you can see, I pretty much have one of everything. Oh, looks like I'm still missing a diamond. And I don't know if the emerald goes into a deep slate. So we're gonna have to look for those. Maybe that's a little too rare and I won't be able to do it. But what I had in mind, and this is probably strange and we'll see how it looks, but I love the idea of displaying that somewhere and not just in some kind of a trophy case, but maybe it goes, I don't know, we're gonna try this. It goes in here, let's put this, and the idea is that maybe like this is here, that's there, and that's there. So it's almost like this is the coal bench. Let's see, let's do the iron. I'm already kind of thinking this is gonna feel weird. This, and this. I don't know. This idea might be a little too strange, guys. I'm gonna get the other ones in, get the dirt in, and then we can evaluate it from there. I think it's gonna be a little too strange, but I like to experiment with things like that just to see what it feels like, if it gives the park a little variety. So let's get that floor in. I'm gonna put those in and then I'll make a judgment and see if it's looking good or not. Okay, and I've got that pathway in. I'm loving the way it's feeling. Now it's feeling pretty flat in here. So I think that's where like the grass is, and we'll probably do some, I don't know, some flowers in here. And then putting these trees in will help too. But the idea is that you come in, you can walk all the way around the tree. And as you can see, I don't know if I'm feeling this. The idea was kind of cool. Like, I liked the idea. I just don't know that it looks good. And maybe it's because it's one of all three of them. Like, maybe if it was a single color, it might look good. But I don't know that I'm loving it because some of these fit in pretty well, or they blend in because they're dark or gray. That thing's super bright. So I don't know. I still can't tell if I love it or not. And so this is another one of those decisions. I'm just going to sit with it. We're going to finish decorating around here, get some of the different bushes in, different colors, see if we like it. And if we don't, this is an easy fix. We just rip it out, put some of the pathway in, and no big deal. Okay, and with a bunch of details in, I'm still debating if I like this setup or not. I think I do. I like the idea. I know this is really flat. If I would have done this again, I maybe would have bumped up the park one, but I think it's okay. It's going to tell a story of like lots of travelers coming into this area. They're able to either go see other parts of the city or come in and take a sit. Now, that's one thing I really wish that Minecraft had. Like, how great would it be if we could actually just sit on these benches and enjoy the view? But not yet. We just have to pretend. But I think this park actually came out pretty well. Now, I still got to get a emerald version in the deep slate. That might be hard to find. But I think I'm going to leave those for now. They're a little weird, but I think the fact that this is a city of color, that these make a little more sense, that we went out, tracked down all the different colors, and it kind of tells that story without being too crazy. Like, if you step back, you don't really notice it in the city, but I think it gives that little bit of touch that when you come in, you say, oh, that's fun. That's a fun little nod to all the different colors that were found through the different ores. So y'all, that is going to do it for this episode. I love just doing a little bit of landscaping. I know it wasn't a big build today, But man, it does so much for your village just when you put these little parks in, little bit of landscaping, because it gives you a little bit of room to breathe. It's not so much of building, building, building. It's a little park, and it really rounds out this area. But we're going to move on to some of our next projects. And until that next episode, we'll talk to you soon.